Welcome to Spectrum News at 4. I am Rita Inung coming to you live from Uyo. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu renews appointment of Professor Ayo Omotayo as National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies DG. The court acquits Abba Kyari of asset non-declaration charge. Plus, first Israeli repatriation flights land in Tel Aviv. Details of these stories and more in a moment. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned. First in the news at 4 is that President Bola Tinubu has approved the renewal of the appointment of Professor Ayo Omotayo as the Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS Kuru. The Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, disclosed this in a statement. The appointment is for a final term of 4 years. Recall that President Muhammadu Buhari initially appointed Omotayo in November 2021, with the Senate confirming the appointment in February 2022. Away from that, Vice President Kashim Shettima has said that the implementation of new tax reforms will eliminate the burden of multiple levies and charges on small businesses and low-income earners in Nigeria, thereby helping to reduce poverty. Shettima noted that the planning and implementation of the tax reforms were carefully designed to improve livelihoods, contrary to the claims of political detractors. The Vice President spoke on behalf of President Tinubu at the interfaith breaking of fast for Ramadan and Lent held at the State House. According to him, government is genuinely concerned about lift many out of poverty without adding to their burdens. In a separate development, the Federal Executive Council has approved the implementation of a GIS-enabled alphanumeric digital postcode system for Nigeria. The Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, who disclosed, said it was part of the government's continued delivery on the targets and priorities set out in the strategic blueprint of the Federal Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. Bosun said that President Bola Tinubu gave the approval at the Federal Executive Council. He explained that working in collaboration with the Postmaster General of the Federation of Nigerian Postal Service and her team, the government would introduce a modern geospatial intelligent addressing system that improves accuracy across the country and enables faster and more reliable mail and parcel processing. He further noted that as Nigeria's digital economy continues to grow, foundational systems such as this play an essential role in building the infrastructure required to connect people, businesses and services more efficiently across the country. Meanwhile, the Federal Executive Council, FEC, has approved the demolition and complete construction of the Qatar Bridge in Lagos, announcing the decision after a cabinet meeting chaired by President Bola Tinubu at the State House, Abuja. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, said the council also approved 5.6 billion naira to hire specialized engineering consultants for the design and cost assessment of the new bridge. Umahi also reviewed that the FEC approved 6 additional large-scale infrastructure projects during the meeting, including major highway upgrades and reconstructions across multiple geopolitical zones. The minister said the administration aims to complete and commission at least 4 projects per zone by May 15th. In the meantime, the federal government has placed a 6-year moratorium on the creation of new universities, polytechnics and colleges of education to ensure the sustainability of existing institutions. The decision was made during the Federal Executive Council meeting chaired by President Bola Tinubu. The Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, explained that the freeze is meant to strengthen standards and support the financial stability of mostly private institutions. Alausa cited statistics from the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAM), revealing that while over 2.3 million candidates applied for university admission last year, less than 228,000 were admitted to public universities. In politics, the Independent National Electoral Commission has raised concerns over what it described as unnecessary litigations and persistent internal leadership crisis within political parties. It warned that the trend is undermining its commitment to democratic consolidation. The chairman of the commission, Professor Joasha Mupiton, SAN, expressed concern at a technical workshop on the revision of INEC regulations and guidelines for political parties organized in partnership with the Westminster Foundation for Democracy in Ikotekpene, Akwa Ibom State. Amupiton lamented that rather than serving as vehicles for national transformation, political parties were witnessing a disturbing pattern of leadership disputes and internal conflicts. In another development, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has discharged an acquitted suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, of a 23-count charge of alleged non-declaration of assets filed against him by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. Delivering judgment, Justice James Omotosho held that the Anti-Narcotics Agency failed to provide sufficient evidence to prove the allegations against Kyari and his 2 brothers, who were also accused of swearing false affidavits to conceal the origin of certain properties. The judge held that the prosecution did not tender credible documents linking Kyari to landed properties in Fountain Estate, Kasana, said to belong to Ramatu Kyari, or to properties located on Linda Choko Road in Asokoro and in Maiduguri, Borno State. He noted that ownership of landed property could be established through traditional history, title documents, acts of possession, or possession by connection, none of which was presented by the prosecution. Justice Omotosho also held that Kyari's explanation that the Maiduguri properties belonged to his late father and were inherited by him and his siblings was not disproved by the prosecution, adding that this charge of conspiracy against his brothers was not yet established. Moving now to Rivers State, where the State House of Assembly has officially inaugurated Napoleon Ukalikwe and Henrietta Daimbari Lolo as members of the House. The inauguration took place today in Port Harcourt at the Assembly Chambers. Ukalikwe, representing Ahoada East State Constituency 3, and Lolo, representing Kana State Constituency 3, were elected in the February 21st, 2026 by-elections. The by-elections were conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to fill vacancies in the State Assembly and restore full legislative representation for the affected constituencies. Both lawmakers secured their seats under the platform of the All Progressives Congress, APC. And now to Africa, where Somalia has passed a new constitution that will see lawmakers directly elected by the public for the first time. Prime Minister Hamza Bar said members of the parliament voted for the president, while clan heads and elders elected lawmakers in both federal government and regional states. He described the move as an historic victory, despite a boycott by opposition alliance. Recall that President Hassan Mahmoud has been pushing for the new constitution election and said that elections will be held in June. On the foreign scene, a Pakistani man accused of plotting to kill U.S. politicians, including President Donald Trump, said he was pressured by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to devise the murder-for-hire scheme. Ashif Raza, merchant, 47, was charged in September 2024 with seeking to hire a hitman to assassinate unidentified U.S. politicians. He pleaded not guilty to the charges. The Revolutionary Guards have previously sought to kill top U.S. officials, such as Trump, following the 2020 killing of one of their commanders, Qasem Soleimani, by the United States. During his trial, Merchant testified that he was forced into the plot to protect his family in the Iranian capital Tehran from the guards, adding that he thought he would get caught before anyone was killed. And still on the foreign scene, the first two flights bringing home Israelis stranded abroad by the Middle East war landed in Tel Aviv today after the airspace was closed as the U.S. and Israel launched strikes on Iran. The repatriation flights landed at Ben Gurion Airport, which for now remains closed for commercial traffic. Reports say the first flight, operated by the Israeli national carrier El Al, arrived from Athens, and the second, operated by Is Air, arrived from Rome. Each carried 170 passengers. Recall that Transport Minister Miri Regev had earlier in the week said that Israel's airspace would gradually reopen overnight between Wednesday and Thursday. It nevertheless remains closed to commercial traffic. And still to come in the news. EFL Championship playoffs to increase 6 teams next season. Stay tuned for details of this story and even more stories to come in a moment. Many thanks. From the business scene, the federal government has intensified outdo, declaring in Germany that the country is ready to move beyond raw material exports and is seeking credible long-term investors to unlock its $10 billion annual steel market. Speaking at the Nigerian Jamal Economic Forum in Dortmund, the minister outlined what he described as a strategic shift from extractive exports to value addition, stressing that Nigeria's vast mineral reserves and growing domestic demand present a generational investment opportunity. In a statement issued by the Director of Information and Public Relations in the ministry, Salamatu Jimbania, Audu said Nigeria was deliberately repositioning its steel and mineral sector in line with President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. And still in business, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has received domestically sourced gold refined to international standards into the country's foreign reserves, raising its total gold holdings to about $3.5 billion. The Apex Bank disclosed this in a statement, noting that the bullion was refined to the London Bullion Market Association goods delivery standards. According to the bank, the gold was sourced locally and aggregated by the Solid Minerals Development Fund through the National Gold Purchase Program. The CBN explained that the program works with local miners and follows a responsible sourcing framework aligned with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development due to diligence guidelines and the World Gold Council's London principles. In health, the Federal Executive Council, FEC, presided over by President Bola Tinubu, has approved two key health sector proposals valued at about 10 billion naira to strengthen HIV treatment and improve cancer care across the country. The Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Isiaq Salako, this journalist at the State House, Abuja, after the council meeting. Salako said the approvals followed the presentation of two separate memos by the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare to support the government's ongoing healthcare interventions. According to him, the first approval is for the procurement of antiretroviral drugs to sustain Nigeria's free treatment program for people living with HIV and AIDS, explaining that the intervention became necessary and concerns earlier in the year that the country might face shortages of the life-saving drugs. To sports news now, where the English Championship playoffs will increase from 4 clubs to 6 from next season. The change was approved by a meeting of the English Football League, EFL, the governing body for the 3 divisions below the Premier League. Reports say the top 2 teams at the end of the regular season will still be promoted automatically, with sides finishing 3rd to 8th heading into the playoffs. The new system will see teams finishing from 5th to 8th involved in eliminator ties. And still in sports, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has confirmed it will issue an official decision regarding the future of the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON. The continental governing body made this known in a brief but significant statement shared across its official communication platforms, revealing that the matter has been under extensive and high-level deliberations in recent weeks. The development follows a formal request from the host nation Morocco seeking a postponement of the tournament. Entertainment news. MultiChoice is shutting down its streaming platform, Showmax, after 11 years of operation. The decision taken by the company was communicated to Showmax subscribers today. MultiChoice said the move is a reflection of its bid to focus strengthening their overall digital offering and ensuring long-term sustainability in an increasingly competitive streaming environment. While it did not provide a timeline for discontinuation of the Showmax streaming service, MultiChoice said subscribers remain their priority. And that's all we have for you on the news at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. I am Rita Inung. Enjoy the rest of your day.